Anyway, let's begin and put your hands up. How many of you are also watching Chelsea on the other screen? I don't mind, so it's all good as long as Brighton wins. Okay, here we go. Let's go. Rabbi Nachman. So who was he? Who is he? So he was born in the 1st of Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is obviously very auspicious, in the year 1772, in a town that I've now had the blessing, the privilege to be at twice, not Uman. He wasn't born in Uman. Amazingly, he only spent the last 6 months of his life in Uman. Amazingly, because people think Rabbi Nachman, Uman, that's kind of where he chilled and lived forever. Actually, he got around a bit, but first of all, Mezhebesh, which is where the famous Baal Shem Tov was from. The Rabbi Nachman is the literal physical grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, and on the other side as well, it was from a Hasidic dynasty, so he really has got the ultimate yichus, Rabbi Nachman, and he's literally the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. Tragically, like many mystics, he actually passed away very young, which we'll describe soon. So he was this child prodigy, even from a very, very young age. He understood kind of he had a gift and he was a tzaddik, and from a very young age he was kind of learning Torah a tremendous amount, but different to other tzaddikim, and maybe why some of us really feel connected. He's very out the box tzaddik. So for example, he used to like to go rowing. But not to go rowing kind of because he wanted to like compete with the Oxford-Cambridge races. He went rowing because he literally taught the world this idea called hispoidedus. And let's just speak for a few minutes about that. Well, in other words, lesson 1 from Rabbi Nachman. If please God, he's here tonight in this shir should be Le'iloi Nishmas, Rabbi Nachman ben Feigo. We should feel connected to the tzaddik, and it should be an aliyah for his neshama, and he should become an advocate for all of us who are learning his Torah tonight. So Rabbi Nachman used to go rowing by himself. Why? Because he understood that there's a pasuk in the Torah where it says Vayivase Yaakov levado, where Yaakov spent time alone. What's the virtue of spending time alone? And it's really interesting with the whole mindfulness kind of shtick. It's because that gives us the opportunity to really be intimate and communicate with Hashem. You see, the whole point really of why we're here in this world is to build that relationship with Hashem. But it's very hard to do it with all the noise. And sometimes it's very hard to do it in shul. You know, maybe some of us who, God forbid, have got to be davening by themselves this Rosh Hashana, maybe it can be your best ever Rosh Hashana. Because if you can find that private, quiet time to really genuinely open your hearts and connect to God, maybe it can be your greatest Rosh Hashanah ever. Because one of the problems of being in shul, and I, for example, I like to close my eyes when I'm in shul, because when I open my eyes, there's too much distraction. But when you're by yourself, maybe it's going to be an opportunity to really kind of have 48 hours of hispoidedus for those that are going to be by themselves this Rosh Hashana. And I had a Rebbe who also used to like spending time going to places where there was no one there, like a field where there was literally no one in the field, and just an opportunity to really talk to Hashem, to really and it's interesting because our relationship to Hashem is somewhat similar sometimes to how real love is, what real love is. King Solomon makes that metaphor between loving a spouse and loving Hashem, falling in love. And just like it's really important to have romantic walks with your spouse and spend time away from the kids and away from the busyness of life and without distractions, and those moments you're spending away together, you cherish, and that's what builds the relationship. So Rabbi Nachman explains that when we're spending time with Hashem, we're building that relationship with Hashem. And that's what can lead to faith, and it can lead to much more success in prayer. So he did that from a very young age, and he did a lot of, as I said, rowing. He just liked to spend time away. So that was one kind of unique trait. Now, he got married somewhat young. If anybody like to type in, what age do you think Rabbi Nachman got married? Anyone like to put in? Go and give a guess. Let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Someone won it this last week, right? So, what do you reckon? how old was Rabbi Nachman when he got married? So Rabbi Nachman got engaged at bar mitzvah. When he was bar mitzvah at 13, that's when he got engaged, when he thought he needed, very good, Anton, right? But then he actually got married at 14. He waited till he was really mature, and he got married at 14. And then he lived with the in-laws, again, probably don't try that at home, probably not even legal, but obviously in the Ukraine that time, it was legal. And Rabbi Nachman got married young. By the way, it's very interesting in halakha, if you're a tzaddik, is it better just to be learning Torah all day or to get married young? And there's a whole debate in the Talmud Kiddushin about it. Because the Talmud seem to say that if you got married, once you get married, the learning's never the same. So obviously from Rabbi Nachman's perspective, he didn't agree. Johnny Kaplan, it's nice. My dear friend Johnny Kaplan is on the phone. So just a few years he's got on you, Johnny. So I think you need to get a move on, mate. So that's my bracha to you. Johnny Kaplan this should be the year, Tovshin Beit Aleph, where Johnny Kaplan gets married like Rabbi Nachman this year. You ready? Mitzvah Hashem. Say amen. So, anyway, I don't know the year he had kids, Anton. Actually, I know he had a daughter who passed away, tragically. There was a lot of illness. It was a time of a lot of pandemics, like we're going through Corona now. They had also a lot of terrible pandemics at that time. And there's a lot of early death. But what I do know is Rabbi Nachman used to like to travel a lot. And when he went traveling, what was unique about Rabbi Nachman's traveling, and again, I don't think you should try this, but something I'm going to say about it, I do think you should process. And it's the following. He used to travel, and he used to like to go not just anonymous, but almost in a way where he'd be embarrassed. There's a lot of idea in Breslov called bizyonot. Rabbi Nachman speaks a lot about the importance of, if you're ever humiliated, what a blessing! What an amazing blessing. So he used to go sometimes with torn clothes, with nothing on his feet, and he used to get taunted, and he used to love it. Like the more the embarrassment, the more if he would have the blessing for them even to spit in his face. And he would say a lot of his success came, and it says something that says the Baal Shem Tov also yearned to go to Israel. But Rabbi Nachman was able to go to Israel. Rabbi Nachman said it's down to all the bizyonot that he had. Now, so obviously you shouldn't try that at home. But here's what's really important in life. I'm sure, probably even this week, even maybe today, we get embarrassed. We get scenarios where we're embarrassed. Something happens to embarrass us. We can be humiliated. Someone can be super rude. They can make our face go red in public. It can... some things we can be humiliated, and instead of looking at it like, I've had the worst day ever and I now hate that person and I want to sue them. Instead of looking at it that way, look at it like Rabbi Nachman looks, like, wow, what an opportunity that my ego can get eroded. See, when our ego gets eroded, then Hashem can get in. See, a lot of the time we get in the way. We're in the way. So when we're humiliated, when we have bizyonis, then all of a sudden, if we take it right, and if we allow ourselves to be, okay, maybe I'm not that great, maybe, I'm not as great as I thought I was, all of a sudden, we can receive blessing and we can give bracha. And I've said this story before, so I'm not going to say it again, but there's many stories Reb Chaim Kanievsky explains in this generation, where if you ever are embarrassed or know someone who's just been embarrassed, they can give a bracha to the level of a tzaddik. So you can imagine a tzaddik who went round and was embarrassed, and he explains his whole voyage that he made, I think in 1804, to Israel. He was able to succeed on that voyage because he received a lot of embarrassment along the way. And that connects to another thing that Rabbi Nachman talks a lot about, which is called miniot. Miniot means hurdles, obstacles. So Anton, I can ask you, normally when someone's involved in charity work or in God's work, be it synagogue work, Torah work, Hashem sends us tremendous hurdles and obstacles to see if we can overcome them, to see if we can achieve them. And normally, when those hurdles come, we like, oh my gosh, okay, way too hard. If the going gets tough, the tough get going, and they go, and they backtrack. What Rabbi Nachman taught is those miniyot is actually the blessing. If you can just somehow persevere and withstand the incredible challenges and hurdles that are in the way, and just know that Hashem can do anything and can help you by just persevering and holding on to faith, all of a sudden you get through them. And the amazing can happen. And I really recommend, my dear friends, that next time, if you're doing a mitzvah, by the way, if you're doing something which isn't a mitzvah, if you're doing something really bad, if you're out to rob a bank and there's miniyot in the way, Baruch Hashem, and then turn back. But if you're on your way to a big mitzvah, like when Avraham Avinu was asked to sacrifice Yitzchak, which is we're going to read about on second day Rosh Hashana, and then Satan gets in the way and tries to stop him, that's classic miniyot. And sometimes you actually know when you're doing something really fantastic, and something that Hashem is really excited about, and is going to bring a big Kiddush Hashem when there are tremendous miniyot in the way, right? Which are these obstacles and hurdles and challenges. And if you think about it, there's no doubt this Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, around the world, it's going to be so hard just to hear a shofar. So hard to be able to daven on Rosh Hashanah. So hard to get a minyan, to hear a kaddish. For so many people, it's going to be so hard. And what I personally would recommend, whether if it's obviously legal and safe, to still keep trying, still keep persevering, just to hear that sound of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, to be able to hear a kaddish, to be able to somehow be amongst a minyan this Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, even if you're like, oh my gosh, maybe I've got to walk a little bit, or I've got to make, instead of 5 phone calls, 50 phone calls. I would still say keep on going, keep on persevering, because dafka, the spirituality that we achieve when it's difficult, Rabbi Nachman used to teach, that's the highest level of Olam Haba. When it's easy, big deal. So again, Anton, if you agree with me, but there's probably, I bet, the best HOD, the best charity events you've done which was really going to do incredible good for the Jewish people, probably had the biggest challenges just beforehand and the biggest hurdles just beforehand. So don't be afraid of the challenges, everybody, but keep going and keep persevering. And Rabbi Tatz teaches the beautiful idea that sometimes when you get to a test or a challenge, or what Rabbi Nachman calls miniyot, what we normally call nisyonot, the word for nisyonot, challenges, also means nes, a miracle. Why is it called a miracle? Because actually you hit a place in the challenge when actually it's impossible. Naturally, there is no way you can succeed. No way. And at that point, you hand over to God and you say, Hashem, now I need you to take over. And then when Hashem takes over, wow, bang, incredible. The miracle can happen. So that's why the word for challenge and the word for miracle are synonymous. Nes means a miracle and nes means a challenge in Hebrew. So that's one of the great teachings of Rabbi Nachman, to be able, to enjoy the bizyonot, to enjoy the embarrassment. In fact, the Rambam seems to say the same. The Rambam says, when you're very arrogant and feeling full of ego, dafka, go out and maybe try and raise some money and wait for everyone to start embarrassing you when you try and be raising money for a charity, or do something which you're not going to get a good reception, and you feel a bit humbled. And by the way, what I recommend is David HaMelech, King David, wrote in Tehillim an amazing phrase, Anochi telas v'loi ish. I am a worm and not a man. Amazing. King David, who was a king, said he's a worm. So sometimes if I ever feel, I'll let you into something. I was able to put on a nice suit today, and I was walking, just for a little bit. I just felt my Yetzer Hara feel a little bit of pride. Walking, to straight away, I just countered it by saying, Anochi telas v'loi ish. I'm a worm. I'm not even a man. I'm nothing. I'm nothing. Pride is toxic. It's poisonous. And Rabbi Nachman would speak a lot about not feeling pride and actually feeling humbled, because dafka, when you feel humbled, that's when Hashem can get in. And it's not a coincidence that Rabbi Nachman and Moshe Rabbeinu, for example, Moshe Onov Mikol Adam, he was the greatest leader of all, but yet he was the most humble. So humility and greatest go. And that's something, go together. And that's something Rabbi Nachman taught. So anyway, in 1804, Rabbi Nachman went to Eretz Yisrael. He achieved something that Baal Shem Tov didn't achieve. And then he writes, when he got back, he was able to achieve a higher level of what's called a Ruach HaKodesh, kind which meant heavenly connection. One of those things was able to see you. He could see your soul. He could see your kind of your tikkunim. He was one of those like the Arizal that was able to tell someone what your tikkun was, how to achieve your mission, how to overcome your Achilles heel, what is your weakness, and a lot of tikkunim. And that's something we're going to get to soon. Rabbi Nachman said before he died that he's got the secret to achieve your tikkun, and just by coming to his grave, he can still help you to achieve the tikkun. Just on Facebook, Johnny put a nice message about, but how does that connect to self-esteem? So obviously, you should absolutely, as you said, have pride in yourself, meaning feel excited that we're a servant of Hashem. It says, "Vayikba Hashem tzvakos." You should have good self-esteem. It's a mitzvah. You should be proud of our achievements, but not proud and thinking we are the cause of our achievements, Johnny. That's the point, right? We shouldn't think that we are the cause. We're the man. It's down to us. We need to be helpless. We need to know that any success we have, I'm talking to you right now. If Hashem wanted right now to pull the plug, God forbid, it would pull the plug and we wouldn't be able to hear anything. And it's called my Wi-Fi and it's really dodgy and who knows how long it continues for. And Hashem works in mysterious ways so that we should never be complacent. We should never think we're the cause of success. And that's what really, that again, looking at the Ramchal, Mesilas Yesharim, we're going to be learning, please God, next time. Anton will tell us when our next session of the 49 steps will be, but please God, maybe next month. And we'll be learning about Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, who explains a lot about what humility is in his book, Path of the Just. That I highly recommend. Okay, so let's continue. Now get to the really sad part. So Rabbi Nachman definitely spent time in Breslav, which is where the Breslav Hasidim come from. It's a town, that's where Rabbi Nosson. So nowadays, if you're going to go to Uman post-Corona, you can visit Rabbi Nachman in Uman, you can visit Rabbi Nosson in Breslav. And that he spent a lot of time there. Then famously he had this fire. There was a fire which burnt down his house, and he took that as a sign from Hashem. Again, we, God forbid, right? We would, God forbid someone has a fire, we get down, we get depressed, we give up. Rabbi Nachman saw this as a sign from Hashem. Okay, it's now time to go to Uman, which he understood through his Ruach HaKodesh was going to be his resting place. He used to tell his students, it's a great place to die, Uman. It's a great place to die. He knew that he was going to be buried there. He got very ill when he was 35. And for those last 3 years, he really was functioning kind of miraculously. And he went to Uman. He got there in the month of Iyar. Straight after Pesach. The first of Iyar was when there was the fire. The next, on the Tuesday, I think he went to Uman. And that was it. He was there for 6 months. And on Sukkot, during Sukkot, he passed away. He passed away on Sukkot, I think the 3rd day of Sukkot, the 18th of Tishri. And I recommend that we light a candle for Rabbi Nachman on the 3rd day of Tishri, on his yurt side. But here's the thing. Why are we speaking about it this week, Dafka? Because this is the week that Rabbi Nachman would say to his students more than any day, if you can come to me on Rosh Hashana, I can achieve and help you in your court case in a way that no one else can. And Rabbi Nachman understood kind of one of his gifts from Hashem was that he understood the secret of Rosh Hashana, how really Rosh Hashana works, which I'm going to explain a little bit to you. But Rabbi Nachman really has the secret. We'll talk about the 3 heads. The head of the year, which is Rosh Hashanah, something called the head of the Tzaddik, which we're going to speak about in a minute, and the head of the Jewish people. And if those 3 heads come together on Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi Nachman would say, if you can come, then I can give you the secrets, I can give you Tikkunim. And this way, if you know Breslav Hasidim, and as you know, I'm not a Breslav Hasidim, one of the ways you know that is I don't have my payers coming down like that. They come down like that. And it comes from this idea that he would say that if you come to me, I'm going to be able to take you by the payers, and that's why I grow them long, because I'm going to need to hold on to them, whatever that means. And I'm going to schlep you out of hell. I can schlep you out of the fires of Gehenna through your payers if you can just somehow connect to me. Now, let's just quickly, for those of you, I can see some of you who are listening have actually been with me to Uman. See, Rena's with us. Maybe if you're happy with Rena, for me to share a little story about your trip to Uman, if you don't mind me saying that. And I can see Gary's watching, who went to Uman even amazingly a month ago, which I'm going to tell you about. But let me, first of all, any of you who are somewhat cynical about it, let me combat that cynicism and go like this. I'll be honest, for me personally, I come from more of a Lithuanian background, and the idea of almost going for a pilgrimage to these graves doesn't sound very Jewish, because the whole point of Judaism is Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. The idea is we daven to Hashem, we don't daven to graves, and we don't daven to dead rabbis, and we shouldn't be serving dead rabbis, and that's what we call is idolatry. That's avodah zarah. And maybe it seems to a lot of people this almost like national pilgrimage, wanting to go to Uman, especially going from Israel to Uman, is almost heretical. And I'll be honest with you, there could be some people that are doing it wrong, and I've met them. You could have some people that miss the boat. They miss it. God forbid they stop talking to God and they stop talking to their rabbis. And that's super problematic, right? That's wrong, right? Our job is only to talk to Hashem. However, and this is what I learned in my past 10 years when I've been trying to learn a bit more of mysticism and Kabbalah, there's something called the tzaddik. What does that mean? The tzaddik is it says in the Torah a lot that Noach was a tzaddik, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were tzaddikim, Yosef was definitely a tzaddik. There's this amazing line about Joseph. If anybody's gone shopping in Jerusalem, the biggest shopping center, right, a la Brent Cross, is called Hamashbir, the sustainer. Amazingly, it says in Genesis, it says in Bereshis that Yosef was the tzaddik and was the hamashpir kol haaretz. He sustained everyone, meaning, just like sometimes you can have a pipe and your water flows through the pipe, so off pipe, often Hashem flows his shefas through the tzaddik, and the tzaddik sustains. Obviously, it's Hashem who sustains, of course. But sometimes for different souls, a way to connect to Hashem is via the tzaddik. And it's fascinating. It's almost, as I said, it seems almost Christian, the idea, right? But no, it's mamish brought in the Torah, and it's brought in Sfarim. And obviously people can misconstrue it, and people can misunderstand it, and it's awful when someone does that. They're missing the whole point. And I'm sure the tzaddik, more than anyone, is very distraught that they've misunderstood the whole idea of the tzaddik. The job of the tzaddik, just like it's my job right now, anything but a tzaddik, because my job as the rabbi now to hopefully inspire you and to help you have a better connection to Hashem. So the job of the tzaddik is to help you better connection almost through him, whatever that means. Whatever that means. He almost becomes a link. We're going to teach you at the end, one of the famous tikkunim, rectifications Rabbi Nachman used to teach, was called tikkun klali, and at the beginning you're meant to say hareini makasher atzmi, I connect myself to the tzaddik. So somehow, just like, I suppose, think about it, right? We've got a court case, everybody, in a few days, if you didn't realize, called Rosh Hashana. Just like if you have your own personal court case in this world, olam hazeh, you get a lawyer. We get a lawyer to advocate, and it's really good if you can get a good one. So on one hand, just look at it this way, that the tzaddikim are what's called meilitz yosher. They are advocates. I'll let you into a little secret. So it says those who pass away become your meilitzim. So some of you know my father passed away 4 months ago, and I think about 10 days. And we always say that when your parent passes away, he's now a meilitz yosher. He's an advocate. What's very interesting, actually, is during the first year, they're busy. They're having their own case they need to talk about. So you shouldn't go, and I shouldn't be asking my dad, and by the Mitzvah Hashem this year should be an Aliyah and Hashana for my dad, especially coming to his first Rosh Hashana in the world of souls, you should know that it's not just Rosh Hashana in Olam Hazeh, it's Rosh Hashana in Olam HaNeshamas as well. By the way, we don't call it Olam Haba. Olam Haba hasn't started yet. We have this. We're now in the, please God, we're about to go in the year 5781. Right? We have until the year 6000 left in Olam Hazeh. Please God, Mashiach super soon. And then after the year 6000, that's when we enter, first of all, this phase called the 1,000 years of reconstruction, whatever that means, and then something called Olam Haba, the world to come, which is going to be gorgeous and amazing. But Olam HaNeshamas, the world of the souls, there's actually court cases, and we're going to read it on Rosh Hashana, where we read that the books of the living on the dead are opened in front of you, Hashem, which means even when we pass away, every Rosh Hashana, we go through a court case. And this is what's really fascinating. So my dad this year, it's his first ever Rosh Hashana in Olam HaNeshamas. But next year, he'll have another Rosh Hashana, but he won't have been able to do any mitzvahs. So in a sense, his scales will be changed due to his family, and thank God for him, his thousands of students who are going to be doing mitzvahs through duration of the year, that they become then assets for those souls in the next world. So if any of you have got parents or grandparents in the world of the souls, no pressure, but your actions help them. So it's really fascinating. We have this kind of fascination of on one hand, they're helping us be a Melitz Yosher, an advocate, but on the other hand, we can help them. Even Rabbi Nachman right now, by us learning some of his Torah, we are adding to his merits. So, he is gaining from our learning, and in turn, he's going to be now, please God, advocating, especially if we do if you want to put in the advice I'm going to give you at the end, he can really, really genuinely advocate for us along with our other loved ones in the next world. But if we've got a loved one like Rabbi Nachman, it's a good idea to try and get him to be your lawyer in our court case on Rosh Hashana, which is what we're going to be describing. So that's the thing. Yes, we can be misconstrued. We're going to be speaking in a couple of a final step this year about the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's the same problem with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that some people misunderstand what it means to have a tzaddik, and if you're not careful, you can have a connection to your tzaddik in the wrong way. But Baruch Hashem, the majority, and that's the problem, sometimes the minority gives the majority a bad name, the majority, and I've met many Breslover Hasidim, they have the most incredible emunah in Hashem, because the whole point of Rabbi Nachman's writing is to have emunah, faith. I have to thank my friend in London who got me on the phone to one of the tzaddikim in Breslov this week. I wanted to speak to him a little bit to understand Rabbi Nachman's Torah. And I started telling him different questions. And what was amazing about him is that the rabbi is called Rebbe Morgenstein. You can actually look him up online. He's one of the tzaddikim in Breslov that doesn't speak in English, but he speaks in Hebrew or Yiddish. And he's actually on YouTube if you want to check him out. Morgenstein. And essentially he whatever issue I said to him, very simple. The answer is prayer. The answer is tefillah. The answer is tefillah. The answer is tefillah. I'll get to your question in a minute, Ariella. Right? The whole Rebbe Nachman Torah, it's prayer. Talk to Hashem. Hashem helps. Whatever your problem is, talk to Hashem. Talk to Hashem. Talk to Hashem. Because that's the answer. Prayer is the answer. Faith is the answer, which maybe we'll get to soon also. So what I'm getting to, the irony is, the truth is, Rabbi Nachman's Torah is all about connecting to Hashem. So you really shouldn't misunderstand about the connection. By the way, I got it wrong, Rafai. It wasn't Rav Morgenstein, it was Rav Margolis. There's another one. Obviously, Rav Morgenstein is one of the big tzaddikim, but Rav Margolis apparently is the writer. He's like the Rebbe Nosson of the generation. He writes a lot of Rav Morgenstein's and Rav Kivak's Torah, and I got connected to Rav Margolis this last week, which is amazing to speak to. Okay, next. Any questions, by the way? I'm happy to take a question. So Ariella asked a question. She asked, why not go to the Kibbutz Tzaddikim in Israel? So it's obviously a good question. More than that, Ariella, you've got most of the Breslover Hasidim living in Sfas or Yerushalayim, and the idea of going, especially on Rosh Hashana, to the Ukraine instead of Israel, which, by the way, is potentially even a sin to leave Israel, is a big question. But that's their Rebbe. And the Rebbe has written very, very clearly, come to me. Come to me. He says, come to me. He says, you got to come to me because I can do something that no one else can do, whatever that means. And again, if he's like their link in, if he's their pipeline, then if your pipeline is running in Uman, so be it. And I'll tell you something crazy, Ariella, when I went to Uman, I can testify. I'm very sensitive to kind of my energies. I felt I was in Sfas. I don't understand why, but kind of the connection I get being close to the Arizal in Sfas and the other Kabbalists in Sfas, it was the craziest thing. I was in the middle of the Ukraine, and I didn't get there in other parts of the Ukraine, but when I entered to Uman, I could close my eyes. I literally felt like I was in Sfas. The mystics explained that almost some of the holiness of Eretz Yisrael, when he went to Eretz Yisrael, he was able to take with him, and you literally feel that you're in Sfas. It's really surreal. But obviously, this year we're not going. And by the way, I was a bit cheeky. I can be cheeky sometimes. So I asked one of the Hasidim. I said, "Tell me, how on earth is it permitted for you to leave your wife and kids and come on Rosh Hashana? Rosh Hashana should be a family time. What are you doing?" So he looked at me and laughed and said, "Because on the shidduch, and it's got to be if you want to have a shidduch with a Breslava Chosid and you want to get married, part of the contract is that he's going to be going to Uman and Rosh Hashana. You can come with if you want. If you don't want to, you don't need to. But he needs to be there." And it's so fair enough, I suppose. They know what they're getting into, and that's fair enough. But also from a spiritual level, what we're trying to say, it's a little bit like a spiritual pipeline. If that's where your pipeline is, that's where your pipeline is. That's where your pipeline is. And I kind of, I'll be honest, my wife, definitely doesn't. So again, Ariella's, adding to my cynicism and she's saying, but just because he said come to me doesn't mean you should come to him. So here's the thing, Ariel. Normally normally a general rabbi would say, come to my grave and I can help, I wouldn't. But if you know the story of Rabbi Nachman, if you know his Torah, if you understand the people around him, Rebbe Yitzchak Bedichev was one of his contemporaries, and the other great tzaddikim, they understood he had a gift. He wasn't just like a normal rabbi. He was on a different level. There was a different level, different level, and obviously therefore you are allowed to leave Israel for certain things, for a livelihood, to medicine, to get married, and to do a big mitzvah like go to your tzaddik. So of course it's permitted, but obviously, Ariella, it's probably not for you. And now, and I know you as I do, I don't think you should be going to Uman anywhere soon for Rosh Hashana. But for some people it works. In V'tam Varech Emalit Vakeach, we say, when it comes to certain tastes. Certain souls have sensitive, the more rational souls are connected more to the Vilna Gaon. And the more mystical souls are more connected to souls like Rabbi Nachman. And one thing I can tell you, which I find fascinating, if you think about it, most great Hasidim dynasties, when the Rebbe dies, a new Rebbe takes over. Be it, all the classic from Ger and Satmar and Vishnitz. Isn't it interesting that I would say the fastest growing Hasidut has been Breslav, where they didn't have a new Rebbe because you don't replace Rebbe Nachman. He is the Rebbe, was the Rebbe, and yet it's amazing how it's grown. And there are so many Baalei Teshuvah, so many Sfardi Israelis. They're not Ashkenazi even, but just Jewish people who are looking for truth, find their connection to Hashem and the Torah via Rabbi Nachman. There's something very unique. There's something very, very special. There's something, something disproportionate to other Hasidut, and there's something special, and obviously it's not for everybody, but some of his Torahs and Likutei Amaran and some of his great Sfarim definitely work for me. So let me share with you something, what he says about Rosh Hashanah very quickly. In fact, let me just give you a bit of context first. What is going on Rosh Hashanah? So obviously, if you're, please tune in on Wednesday night on our new social media platform called J Network on Facebook, and you can hear a talk about Rosh Hashanah 2020, Rosh Hashanah Tafshin Pei Aleph. Please tune in. And then actually, essentially the material we're learning tonight isn't what we're going to be learning on Wednesday. So it's brand new material. And also those who learn, if you look at on my Facebook, there's something called the Kabbalistic Roots of Rosh Hashanah. That's also a different material as well. So hopefully this Wednesday night's brand new material for you. But in short, this is what happens, everybody. Coming this Friday night is your biggest job interview ever. It's a job interview to give us, Be'ezras Hashem, the opportunity to serve the king in the palace. Rosh Hashanah isn't like Happy New Year, the way like the 1st of January is. That's not the point of Rosh Hashanah. The point of Rosh Hashanah is, please God, to allow humanity, society, the universe, mankind, and little me, and your families, the opportunity to continue to serve Hashem in this world. Just like today, the 25th of Elul, is the day we're taught was the first day of the creation of the world. So Rosh Hashanah is the day when Hashem created Adam and Eve. And not only did he create Adam and Eve, he's recreating us. It's an opportunity for us to be recreated. And Hashem will decide, should we even go on? Should we continue? And he'll look at each one of us. And the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah that who lives and who dies the coming year is decided on Rosh Hashanah. How much money we earn to the penny, shekel, dollar, is decided on Rosh Hashanah. Whether those who are single, we're going to get married this year, is decided on Rosh Hashanah. If someone gets, God forbid, corona this year, it's decided on Rosh Hashanah. Everything's decided Rosh Hashanah. Everything's decided on Rosh Hashanah. But it's decided not based on what we did last year. It's decided on how we passed the interview. What's the interview? Where, and I highly recommend doing it through Hisbodedus, you talking to Hashem. Hashem's going to say, no. What's your plans, guys? What's your plans for next year? So some of us are going to, we're focused on business, we're focused on work, I've got this plan. Hashem's no, not your business. Me and you. How are you going to, what's your job in the palace this year? How are you going to be of service to the creator of the world this year? We've all, as our Rizal and Rabbi Nachman writes, we've all got a unique mission in this world. Rosh Hashanah is about understanding what that mission is and hopefully, Be'ez Hashem, getting the opportunity to actualize that mission in the year coming 5, 7, 8, 1. And our job, therefore, is to have that job interview, to talk it out. It's a contract, it's an interview, which is subject, you're going to have a contract written out, right? We're going to write down that contract. We're writing it, you're going to write down what you want for the year. So want good things, really try and want good things. And please, on Rosh Hashanah itself, over those 48 hours, be on your best behavior, because we're planting seeds. Like the Zohar says, don't go to sleep Rosh Hashanah daytime, because then our muzzle sleeps the year. So don't definitely get angry on Rosh Hashanah. Don't speak Lashon Hara, God forbid, on Rosh Hashanah. Try and be the highest version of ourselves. And that's why, by the way, Rabbi Nachman would say, come to me on Rosh Hashanah, because more than any day, that's the day to be with me, Rabbi Nachman would say. By the way, it's subject to two things, the job interview. It's subject to references, which I'm calling tshuva. Tshuva is the green light which gets our job description sealed. So on Yom Kippur, the contract gets sealed. It's subject to tshuva. We're going to learn about that on Wednesday night and the following Wednesday night before Yom Kippur. Please tune in for that. But what's really interesting, it's also a performance-related contract. Meaning, just like me and Anton are really hoping that Spurs sign Gareth Bale somehow, and that Real Madrid pay half his wages and we'll pay half his wages. But then Daniel Levy for sure will be saying, Gareth, if you score a goal, we'll give you, another £100,000 for every goal you score. And £50,000 for every assist you make. So Hashem, in a sense, does the same thing to us. Meaning Hashem says, here's your contract, but it's dependent on your performance. So if you go and give X amount of charity, then you get X amount of livelihood. If you do X amount of prayers, then you get X amount of this. In other words, it's totally subject to our performance. And really every day, as the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says, Adam Nizam B'chol Yom, man is judged every day. Another opinion, man is judged every hour. What happens even today is Hashem's taking out the job description that we signed last year in Rosh Hashanah in 5780 and whipping it out and saying, are you living up to that job description? That's what happens on Rosh Hashanah. It's big, it's huge, everything. A whole year, 5781, will be ultimately rooted in our actions and our way we're going to talk to Hashem over Rosh Hashanah. So says Rabbi Nachman, I've got it in front of me, L'Kutei Maharan, a Torah that he actually said on Rosh Hashanah itself. So you can imagine the power. And he said it in Tov Kuf Samach Aleph. A year and a half after he came back from Israel. So he said the following. He said, the secret to Rosh Hashanah is your mouth. But before that, he says something very important. He says, since the whole point of Rosh Hashanah is to coronate the king, is to make Hashem king. And by the way, what that means is during the year, tragically, we're making ourselves king. Anytime you lose your temper, you're making yourself the king. You're saying, how dare that person harm me? Anytime you do something that conflicts what Hashem wants you to do, we're making ourselves the melech, and not Hashem, chas v'shalom, the melech. Rosh Hashanah is about the time we take the crown off our head and put the crown on Hashem's head, and that's maybe why it takes 48 hours to go through this coronation process. But he says the famous line that's written by Rabbeinu Bachai, Ein melech b'loi om. There's no king without a people. So for homework this week, and I know Anton likes deep Kabbalistic questions. If anybody else likes deep Kabbalistic questions, I've got a nice one for you, and you can do some homework and get back to me. We say Ein melech b'loi om. There's no king without a people, meaning, in a sense, kind of we complete Hashem. In Hamas, we complete Hashem's kingship, because you can't have a king if there's no nation. You know, Queen Elizabeth wouldn't be Queen Elizabeth if there wasn't the populace of England, which are happy to receive and allow her to be queen over us. So Ein melech b'loi om, and that's why, in a sense, Hashem is asking for us to make him king on Rosh Hashanah. I have a question, which is, we say, and they say this is attributed to Rabbi Ben Zakkai, and even though some others say later poets came up with it, the famous prayer that we say, Adon Olam. So what do we say? Let's read it out to you, see if I can find it. Seems to contradict that. See if I can find it. Adon Olam. And Adon, by the way, is one of the names of the name of Hashem for kingship, Adnos, which means he's the ruler, the king of the world. Asher Molach, who reigned, B'terem kol Yitzin, before any form was created. So it says, David, in Adon Olam, that Hashem was a king before the world. So what does Rabbi Nachman mean? The Ein melech b'loi om. There's no king without a nation. We kind of complete Hashem, to coin Jerry Maguire, right? We are the enabler that Hashem can be king. Because how can he be a king if there's no people? But we say in Adon Olam, li'eis nasa b'chevs lakoil, b'terem kol yitzin nivra, before any form was created, even forget humanity, even before form was created, before the universe was created, Hashem was king. And by the way, King David says the same thing. David HaMelech says Hashem Melech, Hashem's the king, Hashem Malach. Hashem was the king prior to the world. Hashem Yimloi, Hashem will be the king in the world to come. So how do we understand that God was always the king prior to the universe? Prior to us, on one hand, if Rabbi Nachman says, Ein melech b'loi om. So that's my black belt question for you, and answers on Facebook or on Zoom a little bit later on. And you can do some research on that and speak to your local Kabbalist to find a really cool answer, which I'm excited to hear. I've actually spoke to Rabbi Tatz just before the shir today, and he was going so deep and so high, there's zero chance that I can share with you what Rabbi Tatz said right now. Maybe if you ask me a bit later, I'm happy to share. But at any rate, that's a little question. What I want to share with you is what Rabbi Nachman says. Because Rabbi Nachman says, the way we make Hashem king, the secret is, let's see if I can find the right line. He says the secret is the peh. In other words, what separates us with animals is the ability to speak. It's actually an amazing miracle. We think of it as nature, but the fact that we can articulate and to speak is one of the recognitions in Kabbalah that we say we know we have a divine soul. We have a divine soul. That we can speak, we can articulate, it enables us to have our free will. So what I'm getting at is the following. Please, this Rosh Hashanah, be so careful with your mouth. Be so careful. Whatever comes out of your mouth, it should only be true. Should only be kind, should only be necessary. And really that should be 365 days of the year. But Dafka Rosh Hashanah. In fact, some tzaddikim really wouldn't speak a lot because, the Gemara says we've only got a certain amount of words we can say. Be careful not to waste it. And Dafka and Rosh Hashanah. But more than that, the way we're going to talk to Hashem, and this is what's amazing. And if Hashem has mandated that you're going to be alone this Rosh Hashanah and davening from your home, then it's important to actually speak. Don't just think your prayers. Hashem safasai tiftach. Hashem, we ask Hashem, open up my mouth. We're meant to open up our mouths. We're meant to pray through verbalization, through actually speaking. And I always compare it, as I said, Shlomo HaMelech compares the love we have with Hashem as the love we have for our spouse, for our loved one. Communication is critical. The way we speak to each other is critical. The way we kiss each other with our mouth is critical. So therefore, our mouth is the secret almost of how we build that relationship with Hashem, says Rabbi Nachman. And that pair, how we utilize the pair, how we coronate the king. Just say, Hashem, I love you. Hashem, I make you king. Hashem, please God, help me the next year when I want to do something, which I want to do. But you want me to do the opposite. Help me do what you want, not what I want. Help me subjugate my will to you. Say it. And the idea of New Year resolutions comes from Torah. You know what's in the 1st of January when you're hearing, okay, I'm going to go on a diet. This is the year of the diet, and this is the year of the gym, and this is the year of whatever. It comes from the Torah. The idea is to make kabbalot with our mouth. We say to Hashem, by the way, don't do it with a vow. I don't recommend you make a vow, because then if God forbid you break it, we're in bigger trouble. So, because I said what we say with our mouth is super powerful and potent. But to say, Hashem, I'd love to try and do this. I'm resolving this will be my focus this year. This year, I'm going to say, whatever, extra Tehillim. I'm going to be listening to Rabbi Hill on a Wednesday night. Like, whatever it is, I'm going to better keep it up for aim this year. I'm going to honor parents more. Whatever your resolution is, make your resolution and verbalize it with your mouth this Rosh Hashanah. But more than that, use our mouth to be really kind to the people we live with, the people in our family. You know, more than ever, be on our best behavior, because we're planting the seeds of the whole of 5781 through our actions on Rosh Hashanah. So that was one Torah that Rabbi Nachman says. I think Torah number 78 that we touched on tonight. Any questions before I go on? I'll take that as a no. Okay. Is anyone actually listening? I hope you're actually there. Okay. What else does he say? Says Rabbi Nachman. A few of the key lines, you know, Rabbi Nachman is so famous you don't even realize. So I'm sure many of you have sung Mitzvah Gedola Liyos B'Simcha. Mitzvah Gedola Liyos B'Simcha is a Rabbi Nachman song, because one of the most incredible attributes that he taught is just something very simple. Happiness. Be happy. Many songs have been sung about be happy, right? But Rabbi Nachman taught us that one of the spiritual secrets is happiness. And he would always say that depression, therefore, is something almost that Satan wants you to be, that our spiritual negativity is trying to force us into depression and sadness and to surrendering, because then it has you. And as we learned earlier, if the obstacles come, you're meant to say, Baruch Hashem for the obstacle. Stay happy, keep going, keep climbing, as they say in Chassidus, Lachatzchila Ariba. Just keep jumping over them, just keep jumping. Don't give in. And that's Rabbi Nachman would, on one hand, say, Mitzvah Gedola Liyos B'Simcha, stay happy, be joyous. If you're joyous, and by the way, it says every prophet could only receive prophecy when they had Simcha, which is amazing, because Jeremiah wrote Megillas Eichar about the impending destruction of the temple, and he received prophecy to do that. Can you imagine? And he did it with happiness. So it shows happiness isn't what we view happiness as, like going to Michael McIntyre and having a laugh. That's not happiness. Happiness is that spiritual glow of closeness to Hashem, is that joy, is that feeling you wake up in the morning and you're excited to you've been given a mission today. Wow, an opportunity to do good, to be super positive. As we've learned, Sameach, it's growth. But he would also say the famous line, Ein shum yiush ba'olam. There's no such thing as despair. There's no such thing as despair. There's no such thing as giving up. He would always say, Rabbi Nachman, never give up, never give up. So if any of you are listening who are going through a particular hard time, and I'm telling you in the year 5780, it's been hard. Tafshin Pei has been hard. But on the other hand, it's been good, because hard is good. So however hard it is, there's goodness, and we should never despair. And that's what this rabbi was telling me this week. However hard the challenge is, Hashem loves us. Well, what do we know for sure? Hashem's not just our king, but our father, and loves us tremendously. So whatever he gives us is for good. So even if it's painful, even if it's agonizing, in the end we'll understand it's for good. A. B, if we want to get through the rain, if we want to solve, if we want to jump over the hurdle, we only do that with faith and happiness and tefillah and prayer. And just speak a little bit about emunah, because I can't not talk about emunah. That's probably Rabbi Nachman's greatest topic that he taught. And I highly, highly, highly recommend you should all go and buy the book called Garden of Emunah if you don't have it now. And it's a very easy book written by Rebbe Brody, put it in English, of Rabbi Arush's book, Garden of Emunah. And it's really amazing. And it really teaches us that just like a baby, and I don't know if some of you saw it, I've just say a funny little feeling I had. I've spent a lot of time trying to come up with nouns, trying to make some Instagram 2-minute inspirational videos, and I spent a lot of time trying to make what I call motivational Monday videos, and we, our first one was put on Instagram. You can go to my Avi Hill Instagram and you can check it out, on happiness, Rabbi Nachman's topic of happiness. And yet I put a picture of my first, my granddaughters. I've only got one granddaughter, Baruch Hashem, and this beautiful girl, Shani, her birthday, her first year birthday, I put that on my Instagram, and that's the one everyone liked. So I'm like, are you joking? Why on earth am I going to the trouble of coming up with how hard it was to write down 2 minutes of Torah and film it? I just put on pictures of my grandkids. Anyway, just don't know why I shared that with you, but just to tell you that, where was I going? Come back to me. I don't know. But essentially, it's gone. Hashem's taken it out of my head. That will teach me for going on a tangent. But where was I going? See if it comes back to me. It's gone. It's gone. Anyway, I want to finish off with this, and then I'll take questions. Rabbi Nachman also wrote a book of stories. I always like to finish off 49 steps with a story. So Rabbi Nachman literally had a whole book of stories. I want to give you this amazing book of one of his famous stories. And it's really deep. I hope you like it. Sorry for those who know it already, but you'll hear it the Rabbi Hill way. Says Rabbi Nachman, there was a story, because he wouldn't say the explanation of the story, he would just say the story, and you got to work it out. Here we go. It's called The Prince and the Rooster. He said one day there was a prince, and that prince got ill, mental illness, and he started identifying himself and feeling he was a rooster. But what he actually did, therefore, he took off his clothes. He took off his clothes and went under the table and started clucking like a rooster, wanting seeds like the rooster had. And that was it. He was convinced he was a rooster, and he wasn't going to hear anything of it. And the king tried, and the doctor tried, and what do? The prince now thinks he's a rooster. So we bring in all the best psychiatrists, says Rabbi Nachman. Everyone's trying to convince the prince that he's a prince. He's not a rooster. No one could do it. No one could do it. So Rabbi Nachman writes that there was a great Kabbalist, there was a great mystic, a great tzaddik in the town. And he came knocking on the king's door and saying, I can help, but I'm going to do a radical therapy, and please don't stop me. He made the king promise that he wouldn't be stopped. So the king said, no problem, go for it. And the tzaddik went and disrobed. He took off his clothes himself and went under the table also, and started also clucking like a rooster. And the prince said, Oi, what are you doing here? You're in my space. And the mystic said, I'm a rooster, so I need to be here as well. This is where roosters are, right? Let's have rooster time. Let's start roostering. And they were now 2 roosters under the table. The prince had now found a friend. And now the 2 roosters are under the table having a great time. And then a few days later, the mystic calls out to his friend on the outside, can you bring me a shirt, please? I need to put on a shirt. And straight away the prince said, you're obviously not a rooster. What are you talking about? Roosters don't wear shirts. And the mystic said, why not? I'm a rooster. I want to wear a shirt. I'm a little bit cold here, to be honest. I think I want to put on a shirt. And the prince thought about it and was like, and was a bit cold. Suppose why not? Roosters can wear shirts. And he put on a shirt. And then he asked for some trousers, and he put on his trousers. And the story goes as Rabbi Nachman. The slowly, one step at a time. He got all his clothes. They started having normal food. They started living like a normal life. And the prince went back to life as a prince. But all along, he still thinks he's a rooster. Now that's a very deep story. An amazing story. Anyone like to put in a idea of what you think Rabbi Nachman meant by that story? Here we go. Can anyone come up with that explanation of the famous Prince and the Rooster story of Rabbi Nachman? What do you think Rabbi Nachman's telling us? And you can, for those on Zoom, you can time to unmute if you want to share a bit. Okay, so it's your chance to give your thoughts. Anton, any idea? What do you think the story meant? Come on, Gabby. If you're still there. They've hidden. Anyone like to share? What is the meaning of that Rabbi Nachman story? Anton saying, can't really change who you are. Okay. What's this idea of this almost like conflicted identity, right? That, So Gary's saying we're all roosters. David says a Jew forgets he's a Jew. Oh, we're getting deep. Now we're getting deep. Anyone else? Before I launch into what I think, Avigal, maybe that we act how we feel inside, so we should act how we feel inside. Georgina's even here. To lower your ego. You made my night, Georgina, the fact that you're here. So happy. To lower your ego. Yeah, but what's the whole... Come on, you're a doctor. What's the whole shtick of... I'm going to make... In other words, has he even made him better? Has the prince... It's quite funny. Has even the mystic cured the prince? Because in a way, he hasn't even cured him. Because he still thinks he's a rooster. He still thinks he's a rooster. So there's so many. By the way, a lot of now your messaging, I'm sure most of it's true. It's all true. There's many ways we can think of it. What comes to mind for me is the following. Not that, as Gary said, we're all roosters. I want to say dafka the other way. We're all princes. You know, his friend Rebbe Yitzchak Beditchev would all say, Mi ka'amcha Yisrael. We're going to speak about this on Wednesday night. We're all princes. We just think dafka we're roosters. It's the other way around. You know, we'll say, I need what kind of the rooster in me wants. We have this body, and too many of us, me especially, is so much constrained by what the body wants, and we start thinking we are our body instead of we are a spiritual prince. We are a soul. We are mamleches kohanim. To be part of the Jewish people is such a blessing. Such a blessing to be part of the Jewish people. We have this incredible infinite soul, chelek alikai mimal. But we have this beautiful soul, yet we're thinking we're roosters. And all we want is some rooster food. And rooster entertainment. But you know what? We're a soul. We're a soul. And we need to realize we're a soul. And when we start realizing we're a soul and start feeding our soul, and not feeding our rooster, that's the way we go to Hashem on Rosh Hashana and say, Hashem, I'm a soul, not a rooster. I'm a prince. You're the king. How can I serve you this year? Mitzidi, that's just a little idea of what I think maybe Rabbi Nachman's saying. Just finally, before I take questions, what I highly therefore recommend we do, for those of us who can't go to Uman this Rosh Hashana, and you'd like to connect and try and get Rabbi Nachman to be one of our advocates in Gan Eden, when he's advocating for us this Rosh Hashana. This is what we do. His Hebrew name is Rabbi Nachman, and his mother's called Feiga. Fei Yud Gimel Aleph. So you ask the following. You say, before Rosh Hashana, you give some stocker in the merit of Rabbi Nachman ben Feiga. Number one. Then, you should say, on Rosh Hashana itself, Tikkun Klali. You should say, Rabbi Nachman, he said a lot of his illnesses came from revealing this amazing gift to the world, to the Jewish people. If you say 10 Tehillims in a certain order, 10 Psalms in a specific order, they bring tremendous rectification for us, especially from a lot of our rooster sins that we do. And this is the order if you want to write it down. So get a pen on paper, or put it on your phone, and write down the following Tehillim. It starts with number 16, and then you times it by 2, and the next one is 32. So 16, 32, 41, 42, 59, 77, 90, 105, 137, 150. And if you didn't get that, go to Wikipedia, type in Tikkun Klali in Wikipedia. Rabbi Wikipedia will tell you right there those 10 of them. And then you say the 10. And then before and after you say, I'm connecting myself to the Salik of Nachman and Vega. You say, I'm saying this in your merit. And then that's it. Easy. You've just got yourself a amazing defense lawyer in heaven without having to go to the Ukraine. As Johnny said, bingo. Hero. That's it. That's all you need to do. Stalker. Say the Tikkun Klali. Ask Rabbi Nachman to now advocate for you. Maybe a nice little thing. Maybe between now and Rosh Hashana, light a ner, light a candle for him. And hey presto, you've got one of the greatest tzaddikim of all time to be your lawyer in Shamayim. And by the way, you can do that for anyone that you've got a connection to. Do you know what I mean? You can say their name, you say them to him in their merit, and we said that's one of the ways to connect to tzaddikim. Just to finish off, just to tell you, because Ariella there was being a little bit cynical and skeptical about Devaras in the house. Awesome, but some of you might think that this whole Rebbe Nachman thing, are you sure? Anton's asking again. Anton, because it's you, I'll say it again. The order is number 16, 32, then 41, 42, 59, 77, 90, 105, 137, 150. You now have the best defense lawyer out there that even money isn't needed to buy, if that makes any sense. So for those of you a little bit cynical, I have two of you who are on the screen who can testify a little bit to the power of Rabbi Nachman. Number one, if Rena's still there. So this amazing holy soul called Rena. Are you there, Rena?
Yes, I am, Rabbi Phil.
Hey, Rena. So I'm going to say your story, if that's okay, and then afterwards you can confirm that it's true.
I'm really happy. I'm honored to hear my story.
Is that all right? Because Rena, you had a huge impression, because that for me is one of the most awesome stories I've ever seen. And so Rena came with us a few years back to Uman. How long ago was it, Rena?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. And we were flying and had a little chat with Rena, and Rena was saying, I really want to go and pray for a soulmate. I really would love to go and pray for soulmates. And there's an idea that Rabbi Nachman's as well as a great defense lawyer, he's a fantastic matchmaker too. Fantastic matchmaker. He's the best shotgun out there. He loves to get involved with matchmaking. I said, oh my gosh, you've got to go and ask Rabbi Nachman to be your matchmaker. And obviously you daven to Hashem and ask Hashem to find your soulmate, and Rebbe Nachman should kind of like get involved a little bit. And I was so impressed with you, Rena, and also someone else who came, Dafka Chaim. Remember Chaim Silber, he came as well on the trip, and I couldn't see Rena daven, but I could see Chaim daven. Chaim was crying his eyes out and really praying full on. And I'm sure Rena also prayed, opened up her heart to Hashem, said the Tikkun Klali, asked Rabbi Nachman to be the defense lawyer, and that was it. We came back to Tel Aviv, right, Rena? We came back to Tel Aviv, and Rena gives me a call saying that, she's been offered a match. She's been offered a match, and I said, cool, super excited. And they went out and actually had the chance to meet with him. And in my head, I'm like, that's crazy. That's like Rena and a man. Love it. Rabbi Nachman is awesome. But then I get a call from Rena saying, nah, hasn't really worked out. I'm like, didn't really understand how that one worked. I thought, Rabbi Nachman, I thought you were good at this. But then what's really cool is that the following happened. When Rena and her kind of date were dating, they obviously were talking a little bit about Rabbi Nachman, talking about a garden of Emunah. And if I'm not mistaken, Rena lent her date the book. So now you've got this Rabbi Nachman book in Rena's date's house, and he's like looking at it the whole time. He's like, oh my gosh, I've really got to give it back to Rena, even though we've broken up, a little bit awkward. But yalla, I better go and return it. So now he's having to go and return the book, and then they return, and their eyes meet and they realize they're each other's soulmates and they're living happily ever after. Baruch Hashem, Mazel Tov. And I love that because Rabbi Nachman, I did it twice. He doesn't like get involved once. He like, if you like have a few little doubts, he'll stay, he'll persevere, and he'll like, I'll come back again and I'll help you. And I'm so happy, Rina, that Baruch Hashem, your tefillahs worked out. And it's Hashem this year, Rina, your tefillahs should always be answered by Hashem, and everything that you daven for, Hashem should, B'ezras Hashem, give you in Tavshin Pei Aleph. Rina, is that a true story?
Yes, that's true.
Thank you. Because some of you say, Rabbi Hill, I don't trust your stories. And I'm loving the fact that
I just want to add, if I can add that.
it's your story. You can say what you want, Rina.
We met with my husband 2 weeks after we had returned from Oman.
So he's quick. Rabbi Nachman's quick.
Yes.
Quicker than Tinder.
Yes. And I followed all your advice. And I also read the book of Gan Emunah, the Garden of Faith.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that I was told I did, and we are both very grateful for all your help.
No, thank you, Rina. And you know what? It's just, that's the thing. There's something about, Ariella was asking, really, why do you have to go outside of Israel? Rina, probably, we went to other places in Israel, including the Western Wall and davened. But sometimes I don't understand why, to be quite honest. But a certain tzaddik, and it's not always Rabbi Nachman, sometimes it can be different tzaddikim, can really help. It's just about being at the right time, at the right place, with the right tzaddik, for the right soul. And that's what we need to connect us to receive please God, the Yeshuas, the salvations that we're looking for in our lives. And just one last little story, that during this pandemic, it's been really, one of my biggest loves in this world is to really help inspire Jewish people. And I try and inspire people to, if they get a chance to go to the Kotel, to go to Tzfat, to go to the Kivrei Tzadikim. And it's been really hard during Corona, during this pandemic. And I was thinking, how on earth am I going to be able to this year, get people to go to, connect to Hashem in Uman, to Rabbi Nachman? Kind of impossible, no chance. Who can get to Uman today? And what's super cool is my dear friend Gary, who's been now a big part of J Network, who's coming to all our classes the whole time I'm having the merit to learn with. So we're learning, and Gary's from Berlin. I think, Gary, you there? Can you hear me? Is Gary still there? Hopefully he's there. Yeah, I saw him before. So he's learning in Berlin. We're learning from Berlin. And then I find out Gary's gone to Odessa for business. He's now in Odessa, and we're learning Path of the Just one morning. And then it just Hashem puts a thought into my heart. He can get to Uman. Gary's in Odessa. That's only 2.5 hours away. One of Reb Nachman's famous voyages to Israel actually went via Odessa. So I'm thinking, why not? And I said, Gary, what are you doing tomorrow? Can you get in the car, bring a few friends, go to Rabbi Nachman? He'd love to see you. And amazingly, Gary actually did. And just like last month, I was super excited that one of our crew I was able to inspire to go to Rabbi Nachman, and super excited that Gary had a chance to go to Uman last month, and I'm really excited for all the blessings that I'm sure will come out of that trip. So I want to wish you all a kasiva v'chasima tova. Please come back on Wednesday night. Come to our profile J Network on Facebook, and I'd love to see you all. And that's Gary. I am here, and he's admitted it's true. But here's a question. If anybody has any questions, happy to take questions. Not doing anything else right now, to be quite honest, other than learn some more Torah when you've all finished. So happy to take questions. Has anybody a question? Would anyone like to share? Anyone? Wow, that was silence. I'll give you another few seconds. Come on, guys. A question. I could sing a little song when I'm waiting for the question, but my kids have told me, please don't sing songs, Daddy, when you're teaching. So I'm not going to sing a song. I'm going to listen to them. Any questions from anyone? Doesn't look like it. But the good news for you is I'm working 24/7, so you could always message me on Facebook or WhatsApp questions anytime, and I will do my best to try and answer you. So really sending you lots of love, wishing you tremendous Hashana. I really hope I see you all in 46 hours time back on Facebook for a crazy share with a lot of Levi Yitzchak and Bedichev, the friends of Rabbi Nachman, about how we need to prepare for Rosh Hashanah. What Johnny asked, how can Rabbi Nachman say he has powers? Oh, good question, Johnny. Good question. Johnny's asked the question, kind of, how can Rabbi Nachman say he's got the answers? He could do kunim if we should be saying we're acting like a worm. So here's the thing, Johnny. It's dafka because he thinks he's a worm. Because he knows that his ego is nothing. You know, he's not even a rooster. He's less than a rooster. Right? The ego is nothing. So when we are seriously nothing, and we've literally nullified, Johnny Kaplan, our ego, totally nullified it. It doesn't exist. Then Hashem's light can get right through, and that's how you can become a tzaddik, and then incredible things can be done. And here's the thing, just like you said, Johnny, that we need to be kind of proud of our abilities. So Rabbi Nachman's not proud of his abilities, but he needs to utilize his abilities because Hashem's given him his abilities so Rina can go and get married. And that so many thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands, potentially millions, have benefited, Johnny, from the tzaddik's vessel, from the tzaddik's gifts that Hashem gave them. So God forbid he doesn't think it's his gift. It's Hashem's present to the tzaddik. And that's why if you go to the Arizal, you'll gain from it. And you go to David HaMelech's cave, you go to Shimon HaTzaddik's grave, and whatever, you know, the graves of Shimon Bar Yochai and Meron. Why do you think 500,000 Jews go to Meron on a non-COVID Lag BaOmer? And that's because there's something there. There's something there that we feel we need to be by the tzaddik to get close to Hashem. To get close to Hashem. Not to get close to the tzaddik, but to get close to Hashem. And they need to tell us it. They can't be shy about it, Johnny. Because if you have a gift which is there to benefit others. By the way, if it's a gift, like the Chazon Ish had a gift where he felt it didn't need to benefit the Jewish people, so he was very quiet about it. Rabbi Yisrael Meir Karelitz, he was anonymous. He was like this anonymous sage in Bnei Brak. No one knew he was a tzaddik. And eventually he got outed because they said, no, you can benefit the Jewish people, so you need to be... And the Chazon Ish, who went from being anonymous, would do shtick, like if someone went with a medical problem and the doctors didn't know what to do. There was this famous story of someone went to the Chazon Ish and he was going to have a specific brain operation, and the Chazon Ish started drawing a brain and drawing how the operation needs to go and said, please hand this to your surgeon, you're going to need that. And when he handed it to the surgeon before the operation, the surgeon said, are you crazy? Like, this is a very radical surgery. When he got into opening up the brain, he started having problems, and then he opened up and realized, oh my gosh, I need this map of how to give him brain surgery. So how did the Chazon Ish know? I don't know. You want to call it a power? Go figure. But isn't it good that the Chazon Ish shared that with his, fellow brother, Jewish brother? Otherwise, he wouldn't be alive. In other words, the tzaddik and not the sages need to be able to share their blessings if it's there to benefit. If they're allowed, there's 36 tzaddikim of every generation who no one knows who they are. They're hidden. Johnny, he could be like one of the homeless guys sitting in Tel Aviv that you're making fun of, and it's bizyonot, and that we're making fun of, and they're loving the fact we're making fun of them. The 36 hidden tzaddikim that no one has to know, they don't have to share. But most tzaddikim, then there's 36 revealed tzaddikim who do have to share and do have to say what they're good at, so we can benefit, because that's what they're there for. They're not there for themselves, they're there for us. I hope I've answered that question. Any other questions? See, I was happy to take questions. Stay all night if you want. Any other questions? As long as you ask, I'll stay. Is there any other coming? Dum, 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 dum. Those on Zoom can unmute themselves and ask. So Mr. Kaplan is saying he's today been hit lots of hurdles and had lots of embarrassment. Baruch Hashem. So do you want me to say, Johnny, thank you Hashem for the embarrassment. Wow, I'm so delighted. You've really made my day. And if you could say that with genuinity, then Hashem says, wow, he's thanking us. Let's give him something really to thank about. And Be'ez Hashem, Johnny, tomorrow is going to be the deal where someone's going to call you up and say, we'd like to give you millions so TED Tech can go huge. And then with the millions you're going to make, you're going to be able to give Be'ez Hashem 20% to holy charities around the world to help the Jewish people. Any other questions? Otherwise, it's like a one-on-one between me and Johnny Kaplan. Any other questions? So I'll love you and leave you and wish you all a kasiva v'chasima tova. God bless everyone.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Pleasure, thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I'll come back if you want. If you don't want to go anywhere, now you want to chat. Now you want to chat. Jokes. Anybody want to chat? Anybody want to say anything? Zvara, so nice to see you. Wishing you ksivach sima tova, Zvara. You and your family should have tremendous Yeshuas. Tavshin Pei Aleph should be the best year of your life. Best year of your life. And really excited to hopefully see many of you in 48 hours. I'll try again to say goodbye before... Am I safe to say goodbye? Let's try again. Goodbye. No. So I've left Zoom. I'm still on Facebook. If anybody's got a question on Facebook. Anybody question on Facebook? Going, gone.